Today we uncover the shocking truth about UK coffee. A major brand raised prices 40% in 2025 while secretly cutting the jar size from 200 grams to 190. Same jar, less coffee, higher price, and the taste, it's declined so much that loyal customers who've drunk it for decades are finally noticing something's wrong. But here's the real kicker. A UK study by the Quadram Institute tested 60 coffee brands and found that up to 65% of products labelled 100% Arabica weren't what they claimed. One sample contained 33% Robusta, the cheaper, harsher bean they never advertised. You paid premium prices for inferior coffee, and you had no idea. But fake beans are just the beginning. Some instant coffees contain twice the acrylamide of fresh ground coffee. That's a compound linked to health concerns that forms during high-temperature processing. Others are pushing concerning levels of naturally occurring toxins. And then there's the environmental catastrophe nobody talks about. 29,000 coffee pods end up in landfill every single minute globally. Not recycled, not reused. Straight to landfill. And they take 500 years to decompose, 5 centuries of waste for 5 minutes of convenience. The brands we've trusted for generations have been quietly cutting corners while we've been too loyal to notice. Corporate giants bought out your favorite café brands, slapped their logos on supermarket products, and handed manufacturing to the same industrial lines, churning out budget instant, premium packaging. Nestlé processing, you're paying Starbucks prices for Nescafe quality. And the biggest instant coffee brand in Britain, they've created dozens of variants, all promising different experiences, different flavor profiles. But people have noticed they all taste basically the same. It's the same coffee in different jars with different marketing. You're not getting choice, you're getting the illusion of choice. So we've gone through the major brands currently sold in UK supermarkets and will expose the 9 coffee products you need to avoid. Then I'll tell you the 4 which are actually still worth buying. But before we get into it, if this kind of content matters to you, if you think people deserve to know what they're actually putting in their bodies, then hit that like button, and especially the hype button. Because when videos like this get pushed by the algorithm, it forces these companies to pay attention. Every share, every comment, every bit of engagement sends a message that we're not accepting this anymore. We're pushing back. And the more people see this, the more pressure these corporations face to actually improve their standards instead of just their marketing. So if you want to be part of that, if you want to help spread this awareness, hype this video, it genuinely makes a difference. And let's get into it. Number 9. Starbucks at Home Range. The Green Mermaid. The cafe experience you can recreate in your kitchen. When Starbucks launched their supermarket range, millions of people thought they were bringing home the same quality they pay £4 for at the counter. They weren't. Here's what Starbucks doesn't advertise on those premium-looking packages. In 2018, Nestlé paid over $7 billion for the rights to sell Starbucks products in supermarkets worldwide. That means the Starbucks name is just a label. The coffee inside is produced by Nestlé, same company behind Nescafe, same bulk roasting facilities, same quality compromises. You're paying Starbucks Premium for Nestlé processing. The cafe experience, where beans are ground fresh and brewed within minutes, has absolutely nothing to do with what ends up in those supermarket bags. You're buying a memory, not quality. But the deception runs deeper. Those flavored Starbucks sachets, the caramel and vanilla ones that look so convenient, can pack 8 to 12 grams of sugar per serving depending on the flavor. The NHS recommends adults consume no more than 30 grams of added sugar per day. 1 cup gives you up to 40% of your daily limit before breakfast. And here's the trick. Those sachet serving sizes are deliberately small. Most people use 2 sachets to get a decent-sized cup. Now you're at 16 to 24 grams of sugar. That's 80% of your daily allowance in a single drink. For anyone managing their weight or watching blood sugar levels, that hidden sugar is sabotage disguised as a treat. And it's not even real Starbucks, it's Nestlé Instant with a Starbucks price tag. Number 8. Nescafe Original Instant Coffee. The gold jar that's been in British cupboards for decades. Your parents probably had it. Maybe your grandparents too. There's something comforting about that brand recognition, that sense of tradition. But people have noticed something's changed. Comments across supermarket websites and review platforms tell the same story. It doesn't taste like Nescafe used to taste. And they're right. In 2025, Which magazine documented that Nescafe raised prices 40%. No quality improvement to justify it, just a steeper price tag for a product that's actually got worse. But here's what really shows their attitude to customers. Despite the jar being the same size, Nestlé cut the coffee weight from 200 grams to 190, 10 grams less. Same jar, higher price. They're counting on you not checking. They're counting on brand loyalty overriding basic maths, and it's worked for millions of people who keep buying out of habit. The coffee itself is spray-dried, the cheapest and fastest processing method available. It destroys flavor compounds in seconds. Compare that to freeze-drying, which takes 16 to 24 hours, and actually preserves what makes coffee taste like coffee. Nescafe chose the cheap option. You're paying for their profit margin, not quality. And here's what they don't advertise. Most Nescafe ranges use Arabica Robusta blends. Robusta is cheaper, harsher, more bitter. It naturally contains nearly double the caffeine of Arabica, but none of the smoothness. They use it because it costs half the price. You won't see it mentioned prominently on the jar. And Robusta beans don't just taste worse. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Food Composition found that instant coffees using Robusta contained cadmium levels up to 3 times higher than pure Arabica products. Cadmium accumulates in your kidneys over time. They're saving money on beans and passing health risks onto you. And instant coffee contains roughly twice the acrylamide levels of fresh ground coffee. That's a compound formed during high-temperature processing that health authorities have flagged as a concern. A 2022 study published in the International Journal of Food Sciences found that instant coffee typically contains 2 to 3 times more acrylamide than freshly brewed ground coffee. For people drinking 2 or 3 cups every single day, year after year, decade after decade, that exposure adds up. Nescafe promises comfort and tradition. What they deliver is quality decline, shrinkflation, and a cup that loyal customers finally admit doesn't taste right anymore. Number 7. Kenco Millicano Americano. The packaging screams premium, whole bean instant coffee. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? The convenience of instant with the quality of proper coffee. That's the promise. Here's the reality. Kenco Millicano is 85% instant coffee. Only 15% is actual roast and ground coffee. 85% instant, but the name whole bean instant and the premium pricing suggest you're getting something fundamentally different. You're not. You're getting mostly instant with a sprinkle of ground coffee to justify charging more. And here's who owns Kenco, JDE Peet's, one of the largest coffee conglomerates on the planet. They process over 12 billion cups of coffee every single year. When production scales to that size, corners get cut. The artisan image means nothing. This is industrial coffee with clever branding. Kenco started in 1923 as the Kenya Coffee Company, a premium boutique in Mayfair selling quality beans. Nearly a century later, it's corporate, instant owned by a multinational conglomerate. The name stayed, the quality left, and Kenco isn't alone. JDE Peet's also owns Dow Egberts and Law. Same corporate parent, same industrial facilities, same cost-cutting playbook, different jars with different marketing stories. But the pattern is identical. And those ethical sourcing claims, Kenco carries Rainforest Alliance certification, not fair trade. Rainforest Alliance is the weaker standard. It doesn't guarantee the same farmer protections or pricing standards that Fair Trade International does. And despite all the sustainability marketing, there's no farm-level transparency. You can't trace your coffee back to specific farms. It's generic, responsibly sourced language that means very little in practice. The coffee tastes fine to some people, others report a gritty texture that doesn't dissolve properly, leaving sediment at the bottom of the cup. That's the 15% ground coffee they advertised. It sits there like evidence of the deception. You're paying premium prices for 85% instant coffee with a marketing story. Number 6. Nescafe Azera Americano. If Nescafe Original wasn't deceptive enough, Azera takes it further. The packaging is premium, black and gold. Sophisticated. The marketing calls it barista style. The price point is significantly higher than original. And for what? 5%. That's how much actual roast and ground coffee is in Azera Americano according to the food app analysis. 5%. The other 95% is instant, but they charge you substantially more because it says barista style. On the jar, check the ingredients list. If you see maltodextrin, that's filler. Glucose syrup, that's filler. Vegetable oils, that's filler. You're paying coffee prices for additives that bulk out limited bean content. Real quality coffee says freeze-dried instant coffee and nothing else. Azera is the perfect example of what Nescafe does best. Create the illusion of choice. They have dozens of variants now. Original, Gold, Alta Rica, Azera, all promising different experiences, different flavor profiles, but customers report they taste basically the same in blind tests. It's the same coffee in different jars with different marketing at different price points. You're not getting quality progression as you move up their range. You're getting the same mediocre instant with increasingly premium packaging. The packaging does the heavy lifting, the coffee inside barely changes. And that's the Nescafe strategy in a nutshell. Sell you the idea of better coffee without actually delivering better coffee. If you've been avoiding Nestle for ethical reasons, baby formula scandals, water privatization controversies, now you know they're not just unethical. They're delivering declining quality while raising prices across their entire coffee range. Your boycott is justified on every level. Nescafe Dolce Gusto Latte Macchiato Pods. Here's where Nestlé's deception reaches its peak. Dolce Gusto latte drinks come in 2 pods, one for coffee, one for milk. Sounds reasonable until you check what's actually in that milk pod. It's whole milk powder mixed with 10% sugar. Not fresh milk, powdered milk with added sugar. Half the box you're buying is milk powder pods. You're paying coffee prices for reconstituted milk with sugar. The coffee pod itself contains only 5.5 grams of actual coffee. 5.5 grams. For 30 to 56 pence per pod, you could buy proper ground coffee for less per cup and actually taste the difference. But Dolce Gusto isn't really about the coffee. It's about the theatre. The machine looks impressive. The process feels premium. 2 pods, specific buttons that satisfying click when you load them. You're buying an experience, not quality. And then there's the environmental disaster nobody wants to talk about. Globally, 29,000 coffee pods end up in landfill every single minute. Not every hour, every minute. Out of 35,000 pods produced per minute, only 6,000 actually get recycled. The rest goes straight to landfill. And these are plastic pods that need specialist podback recycling. You can't just chuck them in your regular recycling bin. You need to collect them, bag them, drop them at specific collection points or arrange collection. It's inconvenient enough that most people don't bother. Nestlé knows this. They created the system knowing the majority would end up in landfill, but they put recycling logos on the packaging and talk about their commitment to sustainability, and that's apparently enough. You're buying milk powder at coffee prices, creating plastic waste that'll sit in landfill for centuries, and paying Nestlé for the privilege. Number 3. Tassimo tea discs. If Dolce Gusto is expensive, Tassimo makes it look reasonable. These plastic discs cost 31 to 81 pence each. Some milk pods are £4 for just 6. £4. For 6 pods of milk powder. And here's the genius of Tassimo's business model. Every disc has a barcode. The machine scans it and adjusts settings automatically. Sounds convenient until you realize what it actually means. 0 compatible alternatives. You can't use cheaper pods. You can't use other brands. You're locked into Tassimo's pricing for as long as you own the machine. It's vendor lock-in disguised as innovation. And what are you actually getting for those premium prices? Many Tassimo milky drinks contain soluble coffee. That's instant. Not espresso, not freshly brewed, instant coffee despite the expensive machine and the theatre of the process. The milk comes in separate pods instead of fresh milk, which means more packaging and less quality. You're paying for the performance of making coffee, not the actual quality of the coffee itself. And those plastic discs are harder to recycle than even aluminium pods. The barcode, the plastic type, the complexity of the system, it all adds up to most of them ending up in general waste. Tassimo positioned themselves as the premium option, the smart coffee system with automatic adjustments for perfect results. Every time. What they actually deliver is expensive instant coffee with total vendor lock-in and plastic waste that's nearly impossible to recycle properly. The machine costs money up front, the pods cost a fortune ongoing, and you're drinking instant coffee that costs more per cup than going to an actual café. Number 2. Nespresso aluminium pods, George Clooney's elegance hiding a 500-year environmental disaster. Nespresso built their entire brand on sophistication. Premium machines, exclusive boutiques, that satisfying chunk when you slide a pod into place. They convinced millions of people that pod coffee could be luxurious. And in the process, they created an environmental catastrophe that'll outlive everyone currently alive. Those aluminium pods take 500 years to decompose, 5 centuries. And despite all of Nespresso's marketing about their recycling program, the Times reported that only 40% of pods actually get recycled in the UK. The other 60% go straight to landfill. 60%, despite the collection bags, despite the promises. Customers report missed collections, confusing drop-off locations, unclear instructions. The system is inconvenient enough that most people give up and bin them. Nespresso knows this. They designed a recycling program that looks good in advertising but doesn't work in practice. And even the pods that do get recycled follow an absurd journey. UK to Netherlands for cleaning, Netherlands to Italy for melting, Italy to Germany for rolling into sheets, Germany to Switzerland for forming into new capsules. 4 countries, massive transportation emissions, energy-intensive processes at every stage. Each pod uses energy equivalent to running a 1 kilowatt electric fire for 17.5 minutes. For 5 minutes of coffee, the aluminium itself is an environmental disaster before it even becomes a pod. Mining aluminium creates 10 to 12 tons of waste for every 1 ton extracted. It has the highest emissions of any common metal. 10.2 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per dollar of aluminium versus 5.3 for steel. You're not just creating waste with every cup, you're supporting a supply chain built on environmental destruction. Nespresso wrapped it in George Clooney's charm and boutique aesthetics, but underneath the marketing, it's just another disposable product, destroying the planet one sophisticated chunk at a time. Number 1. Taylor's Hot Lavazza. Strength 6. The packaging promises powerful coffee, intense flavor, smoke, and black pepper notes. Sounds impressive until you understand what Strength 6 actually means in the budget coffee world. It means they've roasted the beans to within an inch of their life. Extra dark roast, aggressive roasting that destroys any origin character or nuance the beans might have had. Why would they do that? Because dark roasting hides inferior bean quality. It's like burning cheap toast. Once it's charred enough, you can't taste whether the bread underneath was good or terrible. You just taste burnt. Coffee roasters have known this for decades. Take low-grade commodity beans, roast them until they're nearly carbonized, and suddenly defects disappear under a blanket of smoke and bitterness. Taylor's markets this as powerful, as bold, as serious coffee for serious drinkers. What it actually is mass-market commodity beans roasted to destruction. Those smoke and black pepper notes aren't sophisticated flavor development, they're the taste of over-roasted burnt coffee. Any subtlety, any origin-specific characteristics, any of the things that make good coffee interesting, they've been destroyed by aggressive roasting, and there's no ethical certification visible on Hot Lavazza. No fair trade, no Rainforest Alliance, nothing that suggests these beans were sourced with any standards beyond hitting the lowest price point. Strength ratings are meaningless anyway. They measure roast darkness and caffeine content, not quality. A Strength 6 coffee made from terrible beans is still terrible coffee. It's just more intensely terrible. Taylor's has other products in their range that are decent, but Hot Lavazza represents everything wrong with how budget brands approach dark roasts. They're not delivering bold, powerful coffee. They're delivering burnt, over-processed commodity beans and hoping the strength rating convinces you it's meant to taste like that. So, after 9 products you should definitely avoid, you're probably wondering if there's any good coffee left in UK supermarkets. The answer is yes, but you have to know where to look. The good news is, you don't need to spend more money. You just need to stop wasting it on brands that have been quietly betraying your trust for years. The actual quality options are sitting right there on the shelves, often cheaper than the big names with all the marketing spend. And they're not boutique, hard to find online-only brands. They're widely available in major supermarkets. You can pick them up during your regular shop. Brands like Clipper Organic also do decent instant if you prefer certified organic. Here's what actually deserves your money. First, M&S Gold Fair Trade Instant Coffee. Which magazine ran a blind taste test in 2026 with 68 people testing every major instant coffee available in the UK. M&S Fair Trade Gold came joint top. It beat Nescafe Gold Blend, it beat Kenco, it beat Dow Egberts. The expensive brands with massive marketing budgets lost to a supermarketing own brand. And here's the thing that makes this even more remarkable. M&S costs £3.70 for 100 grams. Nescafe Gold Blend costs over £4 for the same amount. Better quality, lower price. The testers described it as smooth and balanced with chocolate and caramel notes. Full Fair Trade International certification, which is the gold standard, not the weaker Rainforest Alliance. That means transparent supply chains, verified farmer payments, actual accountability. And it's freeze-dried, not spray-dried. That's a 16 to 24-hour process that preserves the flavor compounds spray drying destroys in seconds. You can tell the difference when you open the jar. Proper coffee aroma, not that musty staleness you get from budget instant. M&S proved that supermarket-owned brands can beat the famous names when they actually care about the product instead of just the profit margin. It's available in every M&S food hall and on Ocado. This is what instant coffee should taste like before corporations decided mediocrity was acceptable. Second, Waitrose Gold Freeze-Dried Instant, joint top with M&S in that which test, all Waitrose own brand coffee is fair trade certified. Every single one. That's a company-wide commitment, not just one product in the range trying to look ethical. The coffee delivers smooth, full-bodied character without the bitterness and chemical harshness that plague cheaper alternatives. It proves that not all instant coffee is equal, that processing method and bean quality actually matter, that you can taste the difference between a company that cares and one that's just hitting price points. Waitrose isn't trying to be the cheapest, they're trying to be good, and in a market full of brands racing to the bottom on cost while maintaining premium pricing, that matters. If you're going to drink instant coffee, and 67% of UK home coffee consumption is instant, this is what you should be drinking. Not Nescafe trading on brand recognition while cutting quality. Not Kenco hiding 85% instant behind whole bean marketing. Actual quality instant that beats brands spending millions on advertising. Third, Aldi Alcafe Gold Roast. Now, not all discount instant is created equal. Lidl's Bellarome scored 57% in which tests, dead last. But Aldi Alcafe Gold is different. Same price tier, completely different quality. Which magazine gave this their great value recommendation in 2026? It scored just 5 points lower than the winners while costing around 70% less, £2.50 for 200 grams. That works out to about 1 penny per cup. Nescafe costs £8 for the same size. You could buy 3 jars of Aldi for the price of 1 Nescafe, and in blind tests, most people couldn't tell a meaningful difference. This is freeze-dried, which you can verify by shaking the jar. Large, irregular crystals signal proper freeze-drying. Fine powder means spray-dried rubbish. Aldi's shows crystals. They chose the more expensive processing method because it produces better coffee, not because it lets them charge premium prices. People have reported switching from Dow Egberts to Aldi and finding it tastes more like actual coffee. The German discounters are beating big brands on quality, not just price when they actually put effort in. They're proving that when you strip away the marketing spend, the celebrity endorsements, the premium packaging, and just focus on making decent coffee, you can charge less and deliver more. Aldi doesn't have the heritage story. They don't have the advertising budget. They just have coffee that tastes good and costs a fraction of what Nescafe charges for worse quality. That's the kind of value that actually means something. Fourth, Café Direct Maravilla Ground Coffee. This is the only Best Buy in major UK supermarkets, according to ethical consumer ratings. 100% Fair Trade International, certified, 85% organic, but here's what makes Café Direct genuinely different. The farmers own shares in the business. 2 of the 8 board members are farmers, 75% of their coffee is directly traded with no middlemen taking cuts. They publish transparent sourcing with named farms. You can actually see where your coffee came from, who grew it, how they were paid. This is what real transparency looks like, not vague, responsibly sourced nonsense on Kenco jars. The Guardian praised Café Direct for both flavor and ethics, which is rare. Usually you have to choose between coffee that tastes good or coffee that does good. Café Direct delivers both, and it costs around £4 for 227 grams. Mid-range pricing. Available in Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Asda, widely stocked across the UK. This is real ground coffee with real ethics that you can actually find and afford. Not boutique online brands charging £12 for tiny bags. Not corporations doing the bare minimum and calling it sustainability. Actual farmer-owned, directly traded, transparently sourced coffee that happens to taste excellent. If you want ground coffee instead of instant, this is where you should be putting your money. The truth is, better coffee doesn't require spending more, it requires spending smarter. The big brands have spent decades convincing you that their names mean quality, that their heritage guarantees standards, that premium packaging justifies premium prices. They've been wrong the entire time. Supermarket-owned brands are beating them in blind tests. Budget options are delivering the same quality for a fraction of the cost. And small ethical brands are proving you can pay farmers properly, source transparently, and still charge reasonable prices. The only thing the big brands are actually good at is marketing. And you don't drink marketing, you drink coffee. So stop paying for Nestlé's advertising budget and George Clooney's endorsement fee. Stop accepting shrinkflation and quality decline from brands that think you won't notice. Stop creating 500 years of waste for 5 minutes of convenience. There are better options sitting right there on the shelf. You just have to stop being loyal to companies that stop being loyal to you. If this video helped you see through the marketing and understand what you're actually buying, hit that like button and especially the hype button. The more people who see this, the more pressure these companies face to actually improve instead of just improving their spin. And leave a comment telling me what food or drink we should investigate next, because I'm going to keep doing videos like this. Until next time, check your labels, question the marketing, and protect your plate.